point at which I recognised it was important was the day that I almost went bankrupt. That's when the sword went straight through my heart. I realised this is critical. And to get out of this mess, I think that's when it all started to gel. The rubber had to meet the road. It had to change and I had to get good at it. There were so many arguments and so much friction in the family home when I was a kid. It all related to money. That money was that point of friction in the home and it was up to me to change it. That really set in motion a bit of a wildfire for me. I began to understand the word how. There was too many people saying no. Over the years, I think in my own mind, I've just relegated the fact that you've got to keep asking how. I had worked out pretty quickly that these financial planner guys had gazillions of clients paying too much tax. And they were using property to offset their tax position. Things took off really quickly. You know, I built a business around the idea of I'll supply you exactly what you need. Tell me what you want, where you want to be, price point, type of real estate, and I'll deliver that to you, McDonald's style, every single time. And that just went crazy. And I was making 40 grand here, 65,000, 28,000 bucks off that, 70 grand off this, and the 85, and mate, it was just getting shoveled into my account. Hey guys, bringing you some technology around property called options. And for many of us, we've been familiar with this. We've seen it through the share market over the years. We've heard that an option is the right to purchase something, but never the obligation. And that's what I love about it. From the very beginning, it gives you and I the flexibility. It really allows you and I to either proceed with the transaction as we see fit, or if for some reason the council said no, it's not going to work, or we're not going to grant a DA approval over that site, we now can offset our risk, hand the property back to the original vendor, no hard feelings, and then move on with our life and get a deal that does. So just clearly from the very beginning, let's just lock a few things away and remember that an option is a right to purchase something but never an obligation. So we can never ever, under any circumstances, be forced to settle. So a part of your mind might be thinking, well, what about the vendor? The vendor is absolutely committed. You know, they're absolutely locked in for the period of that option. We typically target 12 to 24 months. And this is ideal. This is the perfect window for us to execute a development approval. Now, in Melbourne, in Victoria, we call this a permit. But to get a development approval, or a DA as you hear often it's termed in the industry, is a key way of you and I taking control of a property and adding massive value to it. That approval, it might have just been a crappy old car yard on 1,590 square metres, but now with a DA for 7 stories and 29 apartments, it is worth a lot more in that state. So options give us the beauty, the ability to tap into a deal that works or back away if for some reason it doesn't. I've had plenty of situations over the years where a council has done a backflip. They've wheeled out a new town plan. Recently we had an option over a fairly large site, it was just over 200 lots, and they basically told us, in short words, this is not on our website, but this purple blob is going to be a massive community centre. And the person that owns this property will now be funding that community centre, as in a huge basketball court, all community facilities, and we're now talking into the millions of dollars. If I had signed a contract on that property, I would have been an absolute sitting duck. If I had purchased that via way of a contract, I would have been up for at least $2.9 million worth of additional expense that I could never get back from that asset, from that site. And my profits would have flown out the door, and I would have been sitting there like a lot of traditional developers today, choked by debt and not knowing which way to get out. So an option allows you and I to mitigate that risk. We don't want to sign a contract. We want to take an option over it. Now, why, Mark, would a vendor then give us their property for 12 to 24 months? And I want to make this really clear, because this is really the magic we're going to give the vendor more than the market. Let's say the property today is $2.5 million, for example, market value. That could be appraised value, that could be a similar purchase within the street or, within the region. We go to the vendor and we say, listen, I need time. I need ideally 12 months, maybe more, to execute a development approval. And I'm willing to give you more than the market for the property in exchange for that time. And this is exactly the words that I use. So it's pretty simple, really. But vendors aren't silly. They're not dumb, right? They you and I say, well, listen, I'll give you $3,170,000 for exactly the same property, but I need this stuff. I need this time thing. And Mr. Vendor, Mrs. Vendor, I am going to add value to your property. I'm going to force value on this. Now, it might be an old house. It could be an old industrial shed. It could be, a property on 3,500 square metres that you and I say, that's going to make a great aged care facility. Anything like that. But we're actually offering the vendor over and above the odds. And I'm talking substantially more. Not a little bit, not 4%, more like about 30 to 55% more than the market. I've done this in the past where I've even been up to 60% more than its natural worth. So this now is attractive. The vendor is not dumb. They want to reach out and take your money. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend my money, my cash, on the development approval. Now, DAs aren't cheap. The average development approval that we do here in Massland would be about $310,000, $330,000. I've got some that are sort of just over $1 million just for the approval, right? Council doesn't have to stamp it, but over $1 million between hydraulic engineers, civil engineers, town planners, architects, vegetation reports, flora fauna reporting, traffic reporting, acoustic reporting. These are huge, huge expenses. And these professionals aren't cheap. A senior partner for an engineering firm is sort of $460 to $600 an hour. When they're certifying works for a DA application, development approval application, you can rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars. So DAs are not cheap. And you've got to remember that the vendor might be going, well, hang on, what? You're going to give me more than the market, but I don't have an unconditional contract with you. That's correct. And we might say to them, well, listen, I'm going to spend $300,000 of my money on your property and increasing the value of your asset. What now might be a crappy old 5-bedroom home, a substantial home, but very, very dated, I'm now going to get a DA approval for an aged care facility. So they already know that this 3.17 you've offered them might be worth 4.3, 4.6 million by the time that DA is granted. So we're really forcing value on this asset. And this is what I love, just love about options. The vendor walks away with the win. The vendor gets a lot more than the property is worth, but we've mitigated our risk too. We need 12 to 24 months to execute this approval. Most DAs or permits in Australia are typically stamped within about 8 months. If it goes anything longer than 12 months, we're doing something wrong. We're trying to force council to stamp something that they will not approve or endorse. So you've got to ask yourself, am I really seeking the right approval? Now, for $300,000 worth of costs, we are now forcing value on the vendor's asset. So if for some reason we didn't complete the deal, the vendor is actually better off because we've spent $300,000 of our money, my cash, improving the value of their asset, and now they stand to gain from this new approval. The property we know would be worth in that situation, let's say, for example, worst case scenario, about $4.2 million for a DA of an aged care facility in this example. That's a 4.2 uplift or about $1 million over and above what we had optioned it for. The vendor now has got that in their pocket. That's their fallback position because if we don't complete or perform, now they've got an approval and they are going to profit from that dearly. So looking at this in a more of a broader view, how do I fit into this, Mark? And I've sort of given you a bit of text, a bit of data there, numbers, but just how does the sequence work? If we looked at, there's 3 parties. We looked at who's involved. There is a seller. I call them seller/vendor. There's you and me. We call ourselves the option holder. You and us, you and me, and us. And what essentially we're doing is we're now saying to the vendor, I'll give you more than the market. On the other end here, we have a group called ultimate buyers. Now, these are the people, these are the developers, syndicates, investment companies, construction groups. These are the buyers that are taking these deals off you and me. They are buying it with the approval for the aged care facility, or with the approval for 85 lots, or with the approval for 38 townhouses. They are the ultimate buyers. Now, they could be Mirvac, Divine, Hallmark, Cornerstone Property Group, they could be Indigo. There's thousands of these companies across Australia. These are a big pool of people. And you've got to remember too, the market actually outside of Australia is bigger than what it is nationally. Today, about 70% of my ultimate buyer database is actually offshore. People like, from Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, believe it or not, Canada, Canadian Pension Fund. You've got big money muscling into Australian real estate assets because you and I have got such strong growth prospects. So they're backing up, and if you've been watching this space for a little while, there's been billions of dollars spent here in the last 12 months, not just in shopping centres or office towers, but all facets of real estate. So these ultimate buyers are actually key. And I know that we've started off by talking about an option, how it works and what's in it for the vendor, but you've got to realise too what's in it for the ultimate buyer. These construction companies are absolutely flush with money. They have profited heavily. These developers all over the country, the last 5-6 years has been boom time for them. They are laden with cash looking to strike. And what's beautiful about that is that they are primed and ready to go. My database today of those guys, I've got 2,472 active, aggressive ultimate buyers. So I'm going to explain that a bit later, but there's an opportunity for you and me to work on this together. I've got the buyers. I'm looking for more vendors, more deals, and that's where you play a part in this scenario. You bring deals to the table, and then I'm able to bring my ultimate buyers, my database, and I'm also able to bring the capital required to execute these DA things. So in summary, what I love about an option, let's go back to the beginning, is that you and I don't have the traditional risk. Years gone, you had to have big money, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in cash to play in the property space in a fairly serious way. Through the years, I've learned how to do this strategy, this technique, and use what we call options now to, I suppose, expedite that or make that a lot easier, expedite that process quicker without the traditional risk. What it's done is it's allowed us to get properties under option without owning them and then flick them on with an approval to my ultimate buyers database. And if you want to play a part in that, if you're sort of in a situation now where you're looking for more money or you're looking for an opportunity to get ahead that's going to benefit you, it's going to benefit your family, or even just allow you to work less or pay down some debt, whatever that is, this may be the way in which you choose to do it. So it's a very clever mechanism. And the vendor is better off. The ultimate buyer is better off because they've now got a site with an approval that's shovel ready. They can start building tomorrow. And you and I get really good at offering the vendor or seller more than the property is worth, and we get good at these DA things. And that's really the secret sauce as far as Massland's concerned, is that we grind a lot of these per year. And it puts us in a situation where that approval massively improves the value, if you like, of the asset on the way through. And that's become our real expertise and what we bring to the table. So should you want to work with us, that's up to you. I would say if you do want to participate, feel free to reach out, observe and watch the community. You'll continue to hear, great deals being done by our students. Plug into that. It's a very clever system where you win, we win, but also too the vendor and the ultimate buyer wins. Everybody's getting what they require along the way, and it just allows you to play in the field of real estate without needing that traditional deposit of $600,000-$700,000 like you did in the past. And if you want to make some smart money, some fast money, then I suggest that you plug in. So I look forward to hearing your success stories. If you have any further queries or questions, you'll constantly see me on Facebook Live detailing that in probably more specific answers. And if you've got any further questions beyond that, by all means, plug into my team, flick us an email, pick up the 1-800 free call number, inquire, get your questions answered. Because the faster you do that, allows you to move faster in making money and tapping what now is an explosive industry. Look forward to working with you. Mark Rolton, bye for now.